Our children face a great many challenges today, and as the headlines all too often attest, those challenges are sometimes more than they can bear. The world has changed. The obstacles that you and I may have easily shrugged off in our youth have intensified. And today we're faced with a social epidemic that claims far too many victims. It's not going to go away on its own. So the question is, are we prepared to stand up and fight?
The Verbal Judo program is really great just because of the pure power that it has to help an entire community. So one of the main things that I teach all the time is the old adage of it takes a village to raise a child. The ultimate goal of the Verbal Judo program is to be able to teach people of all ages how to avoid a fight. Fights don't just start with somebody walking up and punching somebody in the face. It starts with somebody saying something, pretty rude or aggressive, and then if you react the wrong way, as we say in Verbal Judo, then it's going to draw you one step closer to a fight. So the whole concept is to be able to see what those red flags are, how to avoid them, and therefore getting out of a confrontation without having to turn to fists.
Being a parent of a child who is bullied at school, it's heartbreaking.
I feel very sad when I get bullied, and sometimes a little angry and frustrated. People call me a midget and a hobbit because I'm so short. But it still hurts.
So when I came across the Verbal Judo in my research and my studies, it made perfect sense to introduce it into the martial arts system. We teach the students to understand the concept of how or why the person is that way and identify it. Once I identify it, then I know, okay, this isn't personal. It's not me. It's you. You have the problem right now, and I just happen to be in your way. And so what we try to do with Verbal Judo is we get people back into their logical mind and out of the emotional mind. When you're in that emotional state, that's when things escalate and violence becomes violence. Unfortunately, it's reaching what we would consider epidemic proportions. Right now, they're saying 1 out of every 2 people are going to be bullied at some point. On the news, in the newspaper, you see kids going home and just killing themselves because they've been bullied for so long and they're just fed up with it. And then just the social ramifications of how they interact with people that they meet. They become loners, and you can kind of see where the negative cycle begins. All of these negatives start to stack up. The person usually feels depressed most of their life, and most depressed people are alone. And that's certainly not what we want for any of our children.
I was bullied when I was at school. It just continued to get worse and worse, and I don't really understand why. I feel kind of awkward because I don't really have anyone to talk to. Sometimes I do, but other times it can be really awkward because I can be the only one, and I just feel like, why are they doing this to me?
A lot of parents might ask themselves, how can we win? Between the prevalence of violence in the media and sullen teenagers who get straight A's and keeping secrets, the odds seem insurmountable. They're not.
Does Verbal Judo really work? Absolutely. It's been tested in the worst case scenarios, and it has proven time and time again to be incredibly effective. Some of the successes that we've seen with Verbal Judo are absolutely awesome. Just last week, we had one of our little Pee-wee students, which is he's probably about 6 years old, came home from school and he said, Mom, this other child was calling me this name and I didn't know what to do. And so Mom reminded him about the Verbal Judo and said, well, did you use your verbal blocks? And he went back to school, came home the next day with a big smile on his face and said, Mom, guess what? It works. He left me alone simply by doing one verbal block. And so again, you can just imagine how happier he is, and he's able now to focus on school instead of, well, I'm going to be really worried about this kid picking on me for the rest of the school year.
Now I live my life powerful. I know that I'm very confident in myself now. But, I think back then when I was being bullied by this girl, I suffered a confidence issue. I had a very low self-esteem, and I think she did that. She was degrading. But now I am very confident in myself.
For anybody to think that, hey, my life is over because it's just so bad every single day that I go to school, just breaks my heart. And I know all of the parents that we have here in the karate school and that I talk to in the community feel the same way. And so certainly my mission and what I like to do is let our kids go to school and focus on getting good grades. That's what I see as their job. And they shouldn't have to be afraid to go to school or afraid that somebody's actually going to hurt them.